Let's go.
Oh man, dude. Okay, well, first of all, man, it is so great to see you again and to talk to you. It's been a while.
Yeah, it is. I know we've been like just chatting it up as far as just like writing, photography, and all that. I was like, man, when's the last time I actually saw Russ? And when I was thinking about it, I was like, I think it was we're like doing like maybe it was a fundraiser or something. You came to snap some shots, or we were doing like a little like promo. We're running like the OFP.
The
So,
OFP.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it was actually I still have that T-shirt, by the way.
dope, dope.
The OFP. Yeah, I still rock that. It doesn't look the same on me as it does you, but you know, I still wear it.
Yeah, man, yeah, those are good times.
It really
And
was, man.
reminiscing.
Yeah, yeah, it really was. That's I think that's why I connected with you so quickly is because with what you guys were doing with the OFP, it was for those of you who don't know, OFP was like an apparel brand that you and Jimbo were doing some years ago, and so they brought me in to be their photographer slash videographer, and they were just getting started doing that, and I was just getting started uh, doing photography and video, and so it was a great like learning experience, I think, for everybody.
Absolutely. I think from the marketing perspective, like learning to navigate social media and even like just outreaching, just like seeing what happens under the table when it comes to that stuff was just like it was super insightful. And then ultimately it was something where I was like, oh, I'm getting too much visibility. I wanna back off for a little bit, go back to my corner, go back to my room and just
Yeah, no, I understand that. I understand that for sure. Those were good times. Actually, I found one of the. It might have been the very first video that we did. I found it on my hard drive. I'd put it on there like on my desktop for some reason and forgot about it. And I was playing through it and just laughing.
yeah, yeah, it was good times for sure.
Man, so you got to tell me about Texas. You had how in the world did you land in Tejas?
Man, so my my mom and my sister ended up moving to Texas. And uh my niece was there, or here rather, and I had just got back from my last deployment to Syria, and I was like, I was this close to moving to Florida with some of my other homies in SF. We had this plan to like get this like big mansion and just fill it with like a bunch of like pipe hitters and just like DJ and get trippy every night and do all this stuff. It was supposed to be like on some like Scarface shit. And then I was like, man, I really need to be in my niece's life. Because I kind of she has like her dad's there, mom's there, like beautiful family. But I was looking back on just like my upbringing, and I was like, I really wish I had like a cool uncle growing up in a single parent household with my mom, like having a dope uncle that was just willing to like connect with me and take me everywhere, like get me the shit that my mom wasn't willing to buy me. Like, I wish I had that. So I was like, I'll move to Texas and be that for my niece. So I ended up moving to Texas, and yeah, after that, like it just everything started kind of coming together. Started like figuring out my path as far as like career. Um, for the longest, I really, I'm probably just gonna be like overseas contracting and stacking money this whole time, and then kind of realize like every career that I've been in, I've really been fascinated with like human behavior, and so I started transitioning over to that. And even when it comes to like just being here, I was like, do I really want to just keep moving around and doing dangerous shit for the rest of my life? And it's like, maybe I'll just chill, put some more work into like writing, right? Actually try to get some stuff launched off, and yeah, man. And I'm loving it. I love Texas. I love the food. I love the people. Super chill. Go shoot a gun anywhere you want. And everybody's like, that's the appropriate thing to do. If you're not shooting a gun anywhere, people look at you.
Yeah, you're
So,
supposed to. Hey, have you shot your gun today?
yeah, exactly. And you're like, no, I think I shot it yesterday. Then like the police pull up to your house and arrest you for no shooting. So yeah,
You,
it's dope. I
you
love it.
do you say that thing where I wasn't born in Texas, but I got here as quick as I could?
Nah, I know. I haven't even heard of that, but I will start using that.
Yeah. Dude, it might be an Air Force thing, but that's what whenever I spent time in Texas, that's what all the instructors would say, and I would just roll my eyes.
Yeah, yeah. It's nice, man. Like I really dig it. Like being from LA, um, has enough of the West Coast for me to tolerate because I'm like, I'll never go back to California. Like I fucking hate that place. But like I said, like the food here is it's good. It has food from everywhere. The people are super chill. There's people from California, and it's cool being here with people from California who have like the same mindset as far as like I don't want to fucking be in California, but still want to get like some California vibes. Um, it's dope. Yeah, I'm loving it.
I had no idea you were from LA. That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I moved to Atlanta um like during high school. And so it's kind of one of those things where like mom's like she was fed up with California, just like the environment we're living in and with how like high priced everything was. She was just like saving money to pretty much like make that transfer. And as soon as she got enough, she was just like, we're going to Georgia. All right, cool. I don't know anybody there, but I also don't talk to anybody here, so it should be fine. Um, yeah. So it was I was a little bit disappointed leaving. But ultimately it got me on this path, so I'm grateful for it.
That's amazing. You mentioned that you grew up single parent household. How do you feel like um how do you feel like that influenced your path and especially with like the military and law enforcement and stuff? How did that play into it? I'm just curious. I know my own personal perspective. I'm curious about yours.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest part of that was like trying to understand and find what manhood was. Um, a lot of the environment, it was pretty violent. So what I translated manhood to was the ability to like pretty much overpower and like harm somebody. And so like during my younger years, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the Marines. They look like they're the badasses, and I'm like, like not really, right? I was like, I gotta get into law enforcement and get like on like a SWAT team. Maybe that'd be dope. Maybe that's where I'll find it. And I was like, nope. And then I was like, maybe I could find it in like SF, and it's like, nope. And like all these notes kept coming, unfortunately, and especially with talking like with you and like the whole writing thing. I've been writing my whole life. Like I have the first book that I ever wrote was in second grade. It was like 30 pages long, and I had my teacher edit it for me. Um, and so I'm kind of like I got to the point where I'm like, man, being a man is just being honest with yourself and understanding that, it may not be the typical path that people believe like manhood is, but as long as you're staying true to self, you're doing what you want and you feel comfortable in that, like that's what being a man is. And so it took 30 plus years to find it, but I'm like, you know what? I'm like I said before, I'm happy about the path. So yeah, that's kind of how it just single parent household, father wasn't there, had to find my own path through manhood, uh, trial and error, and still grateful for it because I picked up pretty dope skills along the way.
Man, I could not agree with you more. My parents split when I was right before high school, and after that, it was a very strained. relationship with my dad. And it's so crazy you say those things because I literally went on the same journey. I swear, just thinking, well, I should be a cop. I should, join the military. I'm going to find it. That's what I'm going to find. And I had the exact same experiences. Not that I did the hardcore shit that you've done, but it was the same conclusion. And it's funny when earlier you said you were thinking about moving to Florida, and then eventually you decided to move to Texas to be that father figure. Well, I'm sorry, not father, but that like male role model for your niece. From all my years of searching what being a man is, that what you just said and what you did, that's what being a man is. I mean, doesn't matter what you do. It's about making decisions like that and being selfless, and just being there for friends and family. I mean, it's so crazy. You said all that stuff. You put it so well. I could not agree with you more.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I kind of want to like take a step back and also say like I never want to minimize what people do, especially like even in this conversation, like there's truly nothing like hard or like badass about me, based off of those things. If anything, like I look up to you and I look at your path and I'm like, that's amazing, because like the stuff that you do, even like this podcast, there's a smaller percentage, even when you're talking about like the special operations and stuff, right? There's a smaller percentage of people who truly go out and pursue like what they want to do. Like that's what really takes effort. That's what's really going to be painful. That's what's really going to be a process that you have to work towards, especially if you're doing it for yourself. All the other stuff, and this is unfortunately like I say I had to learn the hard way, like trying to seek out those mountaintops, based off of everybody else's metrics, and just being like, oh, I was able to come in first for this thing, or I was able to beat the student on this thing. I have like, I've actually been able to like acquire this status, this title. Like it was good momentarily, but realistically, like the way I thought about it was like somebody already did this shit. Like there's nothing special to it. Like we put special in front of it because we need something to motivate people to keep doing this. You tell people they're special and they're going to be willing to do the stupid shit in order to acquire that title. But when it comes to like making this podcast, right? Like starting a company where you're doing photography and videography, like actually chasing those goals, like that is special. You are special, and I think that needs to be recognized, and it shouldn't be minimized just based on the journey and like previous occupations that we've had.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. It's so I mean, very much coming from you. That is amazing. And it's fun. It's funny, man. There's so many things I wanted to do. We've talked about it. For years. I want to write. I want to all these different things, act or make movies. And I thought, well, I'm going to start with a podcast. And literally, you were one of the first people that popped to my mind. And I was like, fuck, where's Hosea? It's like I was like, man, I wonder if he would come on and be a guest on my podcast if I did this.
Absolutely. When you asked me to, man, I'm telling you, I was like super excited. I was like, hell yeah. But in like the deepest section of my heart, like I felt like super privileged. I've never been on a podcast. I never even like believed myself to be like important enough, right, to like just sit down on some sort of like social media platform or do a recording and like just talk. So like being asked that, like that made my day, man. I was like, oh, fuck yeah, I'm coming to this bitch and get all hyped up and yeah, bring that energy, So
no, I love it, man.
It was
Hey,
good.
dude, if this shit goes anywhere, you're going to be on here often, as long as you want to.
Hell yeah. Yeah. I'm down. I'll be down for it.
Oh. So, you mentioned something about a PhD that you're working towards. Man,
Yeah, man.
what is up with that?
So, um, I was like on the fence. I was like, man, should I go back and continue try to get like licensure for like the therapist side, or should I like continue on to like the PhD? And I was like, you know what, for right now, continue this licensure and like go for the PhD. Like you have to. If it's in the cards, I understand like family stuff comes up, but it was also one of those things where I'm like if I'm able to do it, I love knowledge, I love learning, I love becoming an expert in my field, and I also love like just having something interesting about me, like reaching that peak, but being like this is fun, but this isn't it for me, you know? And that's like one of the other things that like ties into like why I admire you so much. A lot of guys, they'll just like they stop, right? They stop when they've reached some sort of title that most people are like, damn, you're a cop. Like I could never be a cop. And then it stops right there because like it is true. Like law enforcement isn't made for everybody. Um, but being able to be like multifaceted, right? Like having those skills, just knowing that like, your profession isn't the only dimension to you. Like there's so many layers. Um, but with that being said, I'm like, if I'm gonna have these layers, like I'm gonna keep going to the fullest. Like I'm gonna go for the PhD, right? I'm gonna keep writing until something gets published or until I start like selling scripts. You know, I just keep reaching out for like whatever that peak is, and after that, just when it's all over, be able to look back on it and be like, okay, I did some shit. I may have done some things that people have done before, but nobody's ever collectively done this in one body. So I can appreciate that. I like to thank myself. So yeah, so it's that's it, man. Just trying to create a fulfilling life and be something more than just a two-dimensional human.
What What do you think that is? Because I can remember it's been a while since we met. I mean, it was what 7 or 8 years ago, maybe that. And I feel like you and I connected very quickly, and the conversations we were having about writing and about even the fact that you were part of a company, that you were doing on the side, and we had that thing in common, and so I felt very connected to you right away. But what what is that? I mean, I used to almost feel like there was something wrong with me, that I wasn't satisfied, that I was always thinking like, oh, I want to do this and I really want to do that, and I've just got all these things that I want to do. Uh, so what I mean, from your point of view, because I know you study people and you understand this sort of thing, why are some people driven like that and seemingly, I guess, others aren't?
I think it has to do with experiences and the way we perceive the world. I remember I was like, I love doing like meditation, just like self-reflection. And I think it was one of my buddies, he was asking me like, he's like, man, you write some dope shit. How do you come up with this like dope stuff? And the best way I could describe it was when you've experienced what most people haven't, you're able to imagine what most people can't. And within that imagination, like you're constantly reaching for the unreachable, right? You're just like, you're going for stuff that doesn't exist. And the beautiful part of it is, even though, even though you're never going to reach it, you're going to completely surpass like the baseline of everybody else. You're going to completely surpass the expectations that people had. And they're like, this, it's not going to get off the ground. This dude's not going to do it. You know, he doesn't have enough motivation to do it. He doesn't have enough fortitude. He doesn't have enough money. He doesn't have enough time. Like all of these things. And I truly believe like that thing ingrained in you that keeps you like driving towards the better thing. Um, it's just like the understanding of this reality. It's the understanding of this life. Uh, just how short our time is. Just the things that can happen to us, will happen to us. And once there's an understanding of all that, you kind of have two options. You can put the veil up, right? And just allow everything to be obscured so you can cope with it. Or you can lift that veil and be like, I got a clear view now. I'm gonna fucking run it until it's done. And I'd rather take the latter. At this point, I don't have an option. I've been running so fast, the veil flew off. So I don't have to go like backwards in order to pick it up and put it back on. And it's just like, no, you just gotta keep going forward, keep searching for that, unreachable top. And like I said, when it's all said and done, like you can look back down and be like, damn, I climbed that shit. So
Where do you think that came from? Is that something that like your mom instilled in you? Is that something, have you always felt this way? Because you're a person with an insane amount of drive, and I just wonder, like, has it always been like that, or do you deal with like negative self talk, and if so, like how do you deal with that to keep going?
yeah, I think um I wouldn't say it was necessarily my mom and it wasn't anything intentional. I think it really came from like me observing my surroundings, not wanting to be a product of my environment. Um, and in that like rebellion, there was an overshot. So it wasn't simply like, I'm gonna get out this neighborhood. It wasn't simply like, I'm never gonna be a victim to violence. It's like, I'm gonna be so well off that like, yeah, everybody around me, everybody that I love, like they never have to go back to that place. Like I'm gonna be so dangerous that like nobody is gonna be able to touch me. Like all of these overshots that were done just like in order to compensate, right? In order to cope with the fact that like some of this stuff did happen. Um, yeah. And so like in that, it's like there ends up becoming like that very like negative talk to self. Um, me telling me that like you're not done yet, like you're not good enough. And it's not from a place of beating myself down. Um, it almost comes from the understanding that like if I stop right now, number one, people will be able to say that like I knew he was gonna stop. And then number two, if I stop right now, like somebody's gonna get close to me. Like if I stop in this race, somebody's gonna keep running, like they're gonna catch up to me and then they're gonna surpass me. I'm like, I can't do that. I can't let somebody catch me. I can't even let somebody get close when if I could see them, if I could turn around and see them, like I'm going into overdrive at that point. And so there is that there is that negative talk to self in a way. Um, but it's also I could recognize like that is a part that was present during my childhood and it was very protective. Mm. It was it was there telling me to get better, um, pushing me, having me like stay up those long nights to practice, having me stay up those long nights to write. Like it did all of these things in order to realistically like be that parental figure, right? Um, to be that figure that like kept pushing me through it, even if I didn't want to go because nobody was there to do that. And so I don't know. That also brings up the question, like, why doesn't everybody have that if it's, if they're absent of it? And I think we're made different. We're no better or worse than the other person. It's just some people are cool with just being normal, mediocre. And also find that to be a beautiful thing. Like if you think you reach the top, like I can't imagine the bliss that you feel when you're like, I did it. Um, because I've honestly never felt that. There's never been a point where I was like, I made it. And probably there will never be a point where I'm like, I made it. the only thing that I'll make it to is like ultimately death, right? Like that's going to be the only definitive I made it, and I won't even be conscious when that happens. So yeah, it's yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's amazing. No, I mean, I love everything you're saying. God, it, it almost sounds like I sent you a script ahead of time, because I like, for me personally, and I don't know how to express this like on social media and stuff, because I'm still learning all that, because I am not good at it. But like, the difference between the people, I think it's the interpretation, but some people have your personality or your gift, or I don't know what it is, and they are in those difficult situations, and it just fuels them to succeed and to make them better. And then some people take it, I guess, personally, and they take it as it's final. Like, well, I'm fucked. And I've always wondered about that. And so part of the motivation of this podcast is to try to put things out into the universe, so that people that are struggling with that, or maybe they're on the complete wrong side of that, and they just wake up every day like, what's the fucking point, you know? And if they could hear people like you describe what drives them, and what's behind it, like I think it's my hope that I'm putting things out there that could actually, you know, influence somebody or actually help somebody. That's why I'm so like trying to get granular with your thought process, with what drives you, because that it's something that has just like, I've racked my brain about this since I was a kid. Like literally, I can remember when I was a kid, and I would see, you know, bad things on the news, and I first started sort of realizing like, oh man, there's some really bad stuff going on in the world. And I just always thought, why? Like why? That's not fair. Why? You know, and I kind of have never stopped asking that question, even to this day. So I just, man, I love what you're saying.
yeah, absolutely. And this life it is so mysterious, man. You're like wanting to wanting to be some sort of inspiration and influence for the person that gets out of bed and asks like, what's the fucking point? And I'm like, that is the question, right? Like, what is the point? And all you can do, you can't give people the answer in that. You can only try to give them enough like motivation and support in order to seek their own like answer. Um, and that's just like, for a long time, that used to be the hardest part of life. And it's like, it still is, honestly, for me, is that there is no definitive answer. I'm very like knowledge driven. And so to say like something is just made for you and you have to find it was always a very hard concept for me to grasp, because I'm like, well, if it's made for me and I need to go find it, but I don't know what it is, like how the hell am I going to find it? Um, and like there is some legitimacy to it. It's like trial and error. Um, but in the end, like that is the question, like what is the point of all of this? It's very different for people. And ultimately, like some people, they're not going to find it. Some people find it very early. And it's like kudos, like I said before, kudos to the people that find it early, even kudos to the people that find it in mediocrity, make it mediocrity. Like it's, if, if you're okay with being normal and that is a beautiful thing to you, like I used to have the belief that I'm, I'm disgusted with this person because like they don't want to be better than what they are. And I'm like, I'm assuming they have some like untapped potential. This could be it for them. And if it is it for them, like that's beautiful. Like they've reached it. They're living their best life. And you're over here twiddling your thumbs, sitting in a corner, trying to judge them. Like their life is so good right now. Like you're upset with it. Like that's basically what it boils down to. Quit hating, Hosea. Like get on your shit, try to find yours. Don't worry about them. So, yeah, I'm really fortunate to kind of have like that shift when it comes to how I view just being normal. It's not something that I want to be, at least the way I perceive normal to be. But at the same time, for the people that have it, like it's a beautiful thing. Hopefully, one day, we both reach that point that we could say is normal for us, right? Brings us our happiness and doesn't have us waking up in the morning asking the fucking point is what this, right?
Yeah, what's the fucking point?
Yeah.
Something that occurs to me, like when I look at you, and I'm currently learning this lesson in my life, is you, and I feel like it's one of the major keys to success, and I think you embody this, is that you are very comfortable being uncomfortable. Does that make any sense? Like you don't, if you're comfortable and everything is good, well, then you're not really learning shit, and you're probably not doing a whole lot. But if you're uncomfortable, and if you're trying things and failing, or even trying things that are very difficult and succeeding, it's very uncomfortable. It's hard. And that seems to be, I don't know if you've ever thought of it like that, but that kind of seems to be something for you that you're very good at. You're good at being uncomfortable, and like dealing with, like paying the price for accomplishing something. Am I making any sense at all?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like that discomfort is just like, um, it's a tax that you have to pay in order to be different, right? And with that, I think sometimes I associate comfort with, like stagnation. And so I'm like, if I'm sitting here and I'm comfortable, like I'm usually the most comfortable, like when I'm not moving, right? So I mean, we all are. When we're sitting on the couch and we're like sinking into the cushion, like we're the most comfortable. But we're not moving. In fact, we sit there too long, like we get sucked in and we move down. And so, like for me, I have to be moving. I have to be doing something. Like this is uncomfortable to me. This is where I need to be right now. And I really used to associate that so much with physical discomfort. Um, where I was like, man, like it's raining, it sucks. Like, going like being on some David Goggins shit. Like it's raining outside, nobody else is raining, so I'm a run and be uncomfortable. I'm gonna go outside and run and make other people feel bad. Like, um, but I had to realize that it was much more than that. I'm uncomfortable being wrong. I'm uncomfortable being around people when they're talking about something and I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. So I need to go seek some knowledge right now. I'm uncomfortable with being vulnerable in a relationship and being open. Like I need to work at this. Like, these are very much things like I'm uncomfortable with. And I've been so particular about what I want to be uncomfortable with and kind of disregarding the other discomforts. And I had to take a step back and be like, okay, um, it can't just be this. I can't just be singular in the discomfort that I want to feel. Like if you want to be a complete human, if you want to transcend, um, you need to find everything that you're uncomfortable with, like sit in that shit until it feels good. When you have no more discomfort in anything, it's probably the toxic mindset setting in. It's like, go and make some discomfort, like go disrupt something, make yourself feel uncomfortable.
No,
So
I don't think that's
yeah, it's
that's not toxic at all. Actually, April, she was on the first couple of episodes, and we were talking about it, and like the mindset you need to grow and to succeed and stuff. And somehow the topic of people that were very 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 wealthy and successful, maybe they were born that way, or maybe they became that way through hard work. But however they got to that point, the people that truly continue to succeed and get better are the ones that can have a complete life of comfort, but still choose to make themselves uncomfortable. And so whether it's like hiring a crazy, personal trainer like David Goggins, or whether it's whatever it is, challenging themselves in whatever way. But yeah, it's like not just picking your favorite discomfort, but embracing them all.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, I feel like that's the way you become complete. Um, Going back to just being like two dimensional, right? I never, and that was kind of like the real push for not just knowledge, but education. So I was like, all right, I got my degree. Like I can, it's good. Like people aren't just going to see me as like the big dude, who can carry a lot of weight and run. And then I thought about it and I was like, you know what? There's been such an imbalance when it came to what I allowed myself to fall into when it came to discomfort, that there is an imbalance. And so I never want to be seen as two dimensional. I never want to be seen as like the meathead, right? The dude who's just like able to lift a lot of weight, the dude who's able to run really far, but can't hold a deep conversation. Like the people that know me know I can hold deep conversation. Um, but when I first come in contact with somebody, like I want that conversation to be reflective of who I am. That way they don't just look at me and make their assumptions. So, I guess I got to do it. Guess I got to throw myself back in that discomfort, get some education. Guess I got to throw myself back in that discomfort, push myself a little bit out of that like introversion. Guess I got to throw myself out of that discomfort and start being more open with people, forming meaningful relationships, connecting with people, and not just being the guy who tucks in a corner and pretty much builds himself up for nothing. Yeah, if it's not something that I can ultimately share with other people, um, and have pride in, it's like that's going back to it. Like, what's the fucking point, right?
Yeah.
So,
No, I can definitely relate to that. The idea of trying to, like you said, be sort of like tuck yourself in a corner and make yourself better and perfect things, thinking that like one day then you'll just sort of present it to the world. But really, I think the key is just to in be vulnerable and engage with the world now. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I can very much relate to that. So where are you? Where are you with your studies? I mean, are you starting your master's degree now, or what? Like where are you on that journey?
yeah, so I have my master's in counseling, and it was kind of like setting up for the idea was to go PsyD or psych for the doctorates. And so when I was kind of thinking about it, I was like, I still need to do licensure. I still want to learn a good bit about psych. Um, and so it's been like this kind of deciding factor of like, do I just pursue like another master's in psych, that sets me up for the PsyD if there is time, funding, of course, and all that, or do I just go straight for the PsyD? And so I've been like putting in applications, just to see what comes back, and then kind of just like waiting to make that decision, because especially with like new community, new relationship, like all of that, going back to like separating myself from, that very individual Hosea. Hosea by himself will be like, I'll go overseas contract, finish my degree. It doesn't matter how long it takes because I'm trying to build me. But now it's very much this, I have to consider the people around me, because even though I am responsible for me, there's still people I love and care about. And, it's hard. It's already hard enough when you have to leave, but to willingly just leave solely for the purpose of being away so you can pretty much grow self, maybe necessary sometimes when you're talking prolonged time, when you're talking like 8 months, 6, 8 months, a year, it becomes very difficult to retain those relationships, and I personally don't want to like keep leaving and come back and, see my niece a year older. I've been like talking FaceTime, I don't want to leave and not be able to talk to like, uh, the person I'm in a relationship with now, or the community of people that I have here now, or even like my boys. Like I want to be able to like be here and be able to jump on a podcast, be able to like travel to another state and chill with the homies, be able to be there for birthday parties and all that. So that's kind of been like the deciding factor in that, just because I know both are going to take a lot of time. But I was like, do I really want to go this length right now? Or do I want to continue to like put efforts into education, get established, very established career wise? Because I can openly admit right now it's just something that I'm like not comfortable with. Um, and be at a point where I'm like, okay, I'm good. Like the funds are here, the time is here, and I could take this path as long as I need to. Like this could be pushed out for 6 years if I need to, because I'm in a good place. Rather than what I would say, like right now, I just pushing something out like that for like 6 years. I'm like, yeah, I can do it. But that also means like, I'm going to be crossing my fingers, hoping and wishing that like I get a job that I like, that I'm in an environment that I like when it comes to my workspace. So yeah, that's kind of been the deciding factor in all that.
Man, that's so you think ultimately are you thinking like what would you do? Like I mean, I guess you would like see patients and have like a practice or what like what are your thoughts ultimately?
Yeah, absolutely. It will be private practice, and actually, I just finished up like the certification for it. But I have a heart for the dying. I know that's like a very like morbid field to be in, but I want to work specifically with the terminally ill and like older patients, hospice patients. I just think there's because we know people will die, and because a lot of us like view it as like taboo, a lot of those people don't get the support that they need, unless they're young. If they're young, there's a little bit more empathy that gets thrown into it, like the child going through cancer. Um, like the parents are going to be there, family's going to be there, medical staff's going to be nice, make a wish, like all of that stuff is going to be there for them. But you also have the 95-year-old who is dealing with a lifetime of regrets, who's on his deathbed, and like people are just like, you're old, you're gonna die. And it's like, man, like that must suck. I remember I'm in like um I volunteered to go, and I'll sit at like hospice and just talk to patients. And I remember there was this one guy, had a family, like beautiful family. I'm talking like great grandkids. And I was talking to him, and a lot of times you're able to just connect deep with those people. And I was like, man, what's a regret that you have? And of course, I'm thinking he's going to say, well, I regret not taking this job. It could have set my family up for success. I regret not turning this hobby into a job. And like this dude said, his regret was not asking this girl out in 6th grade. And I was like, at first I was like, damn, man, like you have a whole ass family. Like that's your regret. But then when I was thinking about it, I was like, man, that regret isn't any less or more important. The fact is, like, this dude has to sit in that. And in his mind, he may be coming up with like this what if fucking scenario if he had asked this girl out in 6th grade and created another beautiful family with her. Like this is a very human side to us. And so I'm like, man, if I could do a job, I'm like helping these people, supporting them, guiding them through, helping them reconcile, like, why not? That'd be so dope. And then like as they cross over, like I'm feeling fulfilled. They dap me up, they pass, like spirit levitates, and like we're good. Like I'm like, you know what? This is changing a life. Like you changed a life prior to it not being a life anymore. That's like one of the most beautiful things that you can do, is being there for like a person during those last moments, during the process of dying, and helping them be able to, even if it's not get past the grief entirely, like be able to allow them to sit in it, let them know like it's okay. It's okay if you don't want people around. It's okay if you're mad. It's okay if you're angry. It's okay if you have those regrets where if you told somebody else, they're going to minimize it. Like, give me all of that. Tell me, I want to listen. Like, I want to talk about it and I want to support you in this. And so that's kind of like that's the end goal when it comes to like the therapeutic side is like just being with, just being with the dying. So,
And that is that's incredible. I I know you have too. I've seen a lot of people die, and I've been there, literally during those moments, and wow, just hearing you hearing you talk about that brings back a lot of stuff, and I think that's incredible, and I couldn't agree with you more. The how valuable that is, and in those moments, like, granted, my experiences were with total strangers, um, but I tried the best I could to sort of fill that role, that gap that you're talking about, because there's just something very human about dying, and that's probably a dumb way to say it, but we're all headed there. We're all going to do it, and to see it up close, and to be able to, like, impart some sort of love and some sort of understanding in those moments. It's just like there's something really special about that connection. And wow, that's incredible. I think you should. I think there's a huge need for that. And what do you think happens after we die?
man, I don't know. I hope I've always like I've struggled with that as well. And this is very like young Hosea coming out because when I was 4 years old, I like I asked my mom like why did she make me? And she was like, "What do you mean?" Because I love you. I wanted to have a child. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, why'd you make me? I wasn't here before you made me, so you didn't love me until I was. But like, why did you make me? And I remember just as a kid, and even now, like I've always had, um, I was like very much discontent with my existence only because like once I got put into it, I know I could be taken out of it. Um, and it's almost like it's this paradox where I'm like, I don't want to die. I've never been suicidal. Um, I wish I wasn't born for existence, but now that I'm here, I'm grateful for this, and like I have to live this out. Like I can't go back, right? Almost like the Matrix, right? Like getting unplugged and going back to it. And so, like for me, I'm like I I don't know. I really can't imagine what happens after this life. The only thing that I could say is like I hope it's one of two things. Either either there's retention of my consciousness and understanding of self in the afterlife, or there's no consciousness at all. I don't think I can, even though I want to know, but I don't want to be reborn as someone else or something else. Um, and so I guess the most favorable answer to that is like me drifting into this like collective consciousness where I get all the answers that I want. The knowledge is there. There is self, but there's also like a collective being. We're all just together, like exchanging thoughts and feelings and like living out in space, right? Um, I I hope that's what it is because like I said before, I can't, man, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to do this life again without having like the cheat codes to it. Like if you're gonna throw me back in this life, like let me have enough knowledge so I could at least do it right or start off right versus just having a loop. And so, yeah, I would say not necessarily I think, but I hope there's a continuance of consciousness even if it's just like an entirely different understanding of what life is. Being able to know what my past self was, being able to like reflect on that self in the new life and be like, man, like that was a good life and I'm about to do better now. So hopefully. I don't know. What about you, man? What do you think? What do you hope?
Well, okay, so oh, you couldn't convince me, and obviously I could be wrong, but you couldn't convince me that there's no God, or that, and I mean maybe I say God and some other person says the universe, and then some other person, from a different religion calls their God something else. But you couldn't convince me that there's not a higher power, and that there's not more to this than just chance. But as far as what it actually is, and I heard, okay, I'll I'll tell you what I think. I think it's probably sort of a mixture of uh, all. It's probably like a mixture of all the religions. If you sort of kind of find that center point that sort of mixes, that sort of aligns with all the major religions, and I feel like there's a when I feel like our soul is what is eternal, and then we basically wear these bodies. We incarnate to grow and to improve, and to seek the next level of like love. Basically, I feel like life is a choice between love or fear. Ultimately, I mean, like, and so I feel like what you were saying, there is that unity when we're with God or the universe or whatever you want to call it. But I feel like the key to growth, like we were saying earlier, is that like discomfort, and you have to incarnate in order to learn and to grow. And I mean, people get really granular with that, and people think that we incarnate, sometimes with like tons of things stacked against us on purpose, because it's almost like a video game. Like, well, I want to really, prove that, to myself, that I can do this. So I'm going to incarnate into a very difficult situation. And maybe some people are like, well, I want to, I just want to sort of chill this time. So I'm going to just be, I want to be born rich or something. I don't know. I mean, I don't know about all that, but I grew up in and out of church, and in high school I went through like a very religious phase that sort of went into college. Like, I'm talking like very religious, and then I sort of started, after a few years, I sort of started realizing sort of the hypocrisy, and I was like, I didn't have a problem with God, but I had a real problem with the way that a lot of the religions were trying to relate to God, I guess, or to try to control other people in that pursuit. And that's honestly when I got into law enforcement. I left college and I was like, I want to see what life is really all about. I want to see, what is really going on out there. So I had that religious background, and I'm sure, culturally I'm influenced also, like we all are. If you grew up, if you grew up overseas somewhere, you would have all those cultural biases, sort of built into your consciousness. And I have my cultural biases from being, raised in America. But, in my experiences, like we were talking earlier, my experiences, watching a lot of people die, and uh, usually pretty violent deaths, and being there in those moments, it really made me hone in on, like, fuck, what do I really believe, and what of the things that I've been taught, what is actually real? Because, I mean, it's silly to even say this, but, in some churches that I was at when I was a kid, they would say things like, well, doctors and nurses that see people die that are not saved, they scream like they're already burning in hell as they die. And I'm a kid. I'm like, God, is that real? I mean, even as a kid, I'm like, that doesn't sound right. And then they say, oh, people that go to church and, that are religious, that when they die, it's like a very peaceful process. And And of course, it's nonsense, because I've seen a lot of people that didn't know them personally, but didn't strike me as a church going type, certainly weren't like saying that hell was opening up and consuming them. So obviously that was nonsense, but it was a way, I guess, for me to kind of like hone in on what really matters in life, and what could be true. And that's why I think that's why no one could convince me that there's not a God and that we don't have eternal souls, because something happens when someone dies. Something changes physically in the eyes, it's just, there's just something. We are more than just, when we're alive, there's more to us than just like a whatever, the physical body and the brain, the neurons firing and stuff like that. I feel like we have a soul. There's an eternal aspect to us. And then when we die, it moves on. And I think it ultimately goes back, to God or to the universe.
Yeah, I think, no, absolutely. There has to be, I mean, even, just talking about our level of consciousness, like there has to be a reason for it, right? Like, I think it would be very torturous to allow us to be so aware that we're able to form these connections. We're able to understand our mortality. We're able to achieve these things, feel, um, feel the lack of fulfillment, right? Understand when we're dying, not just from a survival standpoint, and then everything just be over, right? That would be torture. Like, time would be the devil at that point, because it allowed evolution to create something that is able to conceptualize its own end entirely. Like, that is horror right there. And so, like, I agree with you. There has to be more. I remember, I think I may have sent it to you recently through email, but I remember one day I was thinking about it and I was like, okay, let's think about the possibilities. Like, what are we doing here? Why are we here? What happens after? And I was like, I ended up coming up with like this little short story, maybe like turn into something where we're all like eternal beings, right? And we live in this utopia where everybody, they have to abide by these rules to keep this utopia functioning. And anytime there's an infraction, the punishment is to experience life. So they get strapped in this like chair, almost like electrocution style, and they pretty much put this thing over you, and you experience life. You experience like the happiness, the pain, the suffering, the birth, and the death, and then like it's lifted, and you get thrown back into society. And I was like, man, everything that we experience in this life, not necessarily that we like did something completely wrong, but depending on the severity within this life, how much you experience that suffering, how much you experience that happiness, that could be anything from like, man, you didn't show up at work for 2 minutes, and those 2 minutes caused this many products to fail, which caused this within this utopia to fail. Therefore, 45 years and you get hit by a car. Boom, put it on, live it, take it off, go through psychosis, get your therapy, and then you go back to work. So it's like, I was like, man, there has to be something, right? There has to be something. And it's just like one of those things where it's like, we're not going to know till we know, but I want to know right now. Like, I need to know this. I'm sure for anybody, if you knew right now where you went, if you went anywhere, like that's going to dictate how you carry through for the rest of your life. Like, if we truly knew this was it, like, honestly, it'd probably be chaos, right? Whereas if we knew there was some sort of like continuance, like consciousness still goes on, we're unified, everything's beautiful. I'm like, damn, I'm gonna be homeless. Like, I'm gonna just be like chilling under a bridge until I die at this point. Every night I'm just dreaming like, oh, I can't wait to die and like consciousness leave my body and just form with everybody. This is gonna be beautiful. So yeah, I wish I had the answer to that, man. That would be so dope. I think that would help us all along. But that also takes away from like the enjoyment of life, right? Like you gotta push through it, not knowing, but still having enough faith belief or your truth to be able to be like, yeah, like I think I know what's coming, or I know what's coming. Therefore I'm gonna live accordingly.
Man, well, first of all, I love that idea, the screenplay idea. I love that. It's a really interesting take on it. But what it reminds me of is I've often had this thought: if someone that was very very successful, like name your billionaire that has gone through life and worked hard and learned all the cheat codes and became successful, if they could like quantum leap swap into my body, because they would then have that belief, they wouldn't have my self-doubt and my own like limitations. What the fuck would they do? Like they would probably take like a week and sort of take stock and be like, well, okay, yeah, it's not great, but I could work with this. And then like who knows what they would do. And then so either that scenario, or like what you were just saying, if we knew for sure what was happening after we die, or even if you knew your own future, I guess as long as it was a good future, and you were like 100% convinced of that, how would you live? How would you act? I really I like really think about that a lot. Like what how would it change the way that I live? Because I think that we all act in the present based on how we perceive our own future anyways. I mean, really, I mean, if you look around, like, I mean, that's kind of how we all do. I think that's why like the rich, like rich people, generally their kids, I mean, obviously they're born rich, but like if you come from affluence, you just have that mindset. You just assume I'm going to continue with that affluence. And if you don't, then it's, but see, not everyone has that, because you have people that are born middle class or low middle class, or are in poverty, and then they sort of had that expectation, well, I'm just going to be poor, that's where I came from. But then you have some people who are like, fuck that, I'm not okay with this. So maybe my theory doesn't make sense.
No, I think it does. I think in addition, like it's just depending on how we perceive time depends on like those choices made. Um, I would say that anytime we're consistently just focusing on the past and what is happening, what has happened behind us, um, there's going to be that little to no progression. Anytime we're just solely focused on the present, it's that future is just going to be unknown, which it always is. Um, there are minute like predictabilities to it, but I would like to believe like people who are successful who haven't been born into it, they have the ability to look into the future, look at the possibilities, and be like, okay, this is what I want. Kind of going back to, if you've been through the shit that nobody's been through, like you're gonna be able to imagine what they can't. And so, uh, understanding your past, knowing you're in the present, um, but looking into the future and saying like, this is where I want to be. I want that to be my present one day. And so, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. I don't know where we go. I don't know what all of this is for. Yeah. All I know is I hope there is something after this, or something favorable to this. That would be.
There has to be. what what does writing do for you? Like or maybe not even writing, but just the act of creation. What does that mean to you?
That's honestly like, I would equate I would equate it to a child. Like since since I was young, I knew I wasn't gonna have children on my own. It was just something that I didn't want to do. There was also like for me, there was the guilt involved because I'm like, I loathe my own existence. So why would I bring another life into this existence? And so for me, writing has always been like my child. Um, but I've been like a pretty shitty parent, because I haven't even let my child go into the world yet. Right. I keep him cooped up in the house. I'm like, no, don't leave. I'm not done with you yet. You're not ready to go. Um, but for me, it's like it's done wonders. It was my escape when I was a kid. Um, I would journal, I would write stories, I would. It was just, it was so, it was so fun for me as a child, and it's so therapeutic right now. Um, like going from like poetry to short stories to trying to do short films, screenplays. Even don't go into like when I read books, like I take notes. I do like I'll take notes and I'll just like write my own like essay about what the book was because like I love it so much. And like it's really been it's one of the things that I do get like emotional about because I'm like, damn, like I haven't done my writing justice. Like there is, and I'm sure you feel like relate to it. It's just like you have so many ideas, you have this potential, and look, going back to like dying, right? Like, what if everything that I put my heart and soul into just continues to be this file on my laptop after I die? You know, I'm like, damn, like that can't happen. Like it just can't. Um, even even if I fail, and like even getting into this like this time where like there's so many resources that are accessible to us. Like AI is doing amazing things when it comes to like short film world. People who don't have big budgets, like it's really getting to a point where you can make pretty decent quality of a short film. Just by using I just got like an iPhone like Max Pro. Um, and I'm gonna get some lenses for it. I'm gonna get some overlays and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, 2025, like I'm gonna have to come out with something. Um, and it's that easy, It's maybe a couple thousand when you're talking like props and all that. I'm like, you know what? Like, do it. Like I have to do it. Like all this work, all this effort, all this love that I'm putting into writing, like you have to do it because if anything, like allowing people to experience that is going to be a beautiful thing, even if it's just a circle of people around you. Um, it's just, yeah, yeah, I have to do it. Like I have to do it. I can't leave this life just allowing those to be files on my computer.
No, you've
It's,
got to do it. I think you're dead on. I mean, you say that writing is like your child. I mean, I think that's a really good way to put it because it really is a part of you. It's that human connection. It's that part of you that you want to share with the world. And like you say, I mean, maybe it's just friends and family, or maybe who knows. But it's that deepest part of you and your soul and who you are and what that human connection and that you want to share. And it's there's something so special about story. I'm obsessed with it. I wish I obsessively think about story and like what is story, and because in my life, the looking back, even from when I was a kid all the way up until now, the what has gotten me through the hardest times in my life has always been like books. I've always it's just like an amazing story. Like I can remember times when I was in middle school and I was going through like some god awful shit, and and my nose would be in a book. I would have like Jurassic Park, the classic, the probably my favorite book ever, and I would just carry it around and I would read that thing all the time. And that was my escape, and that was my it meant so much to me. Um, yeah, dude, and you got to, yeah, you got to do it, dude. You were so talented, and it's so you were so driven, and like you say, now with AI, like man, we don't really have an excuse. We we should do something.
we absolutely do, man. We have to individually collabing. Like I think, and that's just another thing. Just not just for myself, but like the doors it will open up for like the people that I know. Like I have a homie in seventh group in Florida, and he's like best friend about to like finish a book, and I'm like, man, like all it takes is one person putting something out, and then we could put the whole team on. And that's what it's about. I'm not reaching out to people trying to get them into this business solely for prosperity's sake, right? These are people who love doing this, and I want to see their dreams come to life just like I want to see my dreams come to life. Man, like this has to happen. And getting judgy, there's lesser quality out there that has been produced and been put out, and like it has success. Like, why not us?
Oh, 100%. Dude, I feel the same way. And honestly, that's a huge, part of why I'm doing this right now is because I had so many different things that I wanted to do, and I couldn't. It was like a what do they call that? Analysis paralysis. I was just like, well, what do I start with, and what do I do, and blah blah. All the fucked up, thoughts that can get like tangled up in your mind. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna start something and put myself out there. And if nothing else, it's either going to be just a good springboard, or it could eventually be a great place to share the other things, like, because I mean everything's changing, like YouTube, like my kids. When I think about like movie stars and Hollywood and network television, my kids, and of course they're older now, they're all teenagers. Well, my oldest is 20. They don't think about Hollywood and ABC and CBS. They think YouTube and TikTok and, I mean, Netflix and stuff, but it's changing. It's becoming so available. Like even now on all of our televisions, if you have a smart TV, one of the options, you've got all the networks and whatever subscriptions, and then you have like YouTube, and you can just watch YouTube on your TV, and it's like, so then what's the difference? It's like there's never been a better time to be a creator and just to put it out there. It's an amazing time we live in.
It is, man. And when you're talking mindsets, like, I mean, you remember, like, I was like, man, I don't want any visibility on social media. Like, even when we're around like the nonprofit and like shirt company, I was like, nah, I'll put something on, but I don't want to show my face. And then like it kind of transitioned to like seeing these influencers and seeing these content makers, and I'm like trying to shit on them because I'm like, oh, they did a 20-second dance and they got millions of views. Like, that's bullshit. And then I'm like, actually, it's not. Like, this person is doing what they love with minimal effort and making millions off of it, and you're trying to shit on them right now. Like, shitting on yourself because you're putting all this effort into something that you're not even willing to like fulfill in this entirety. Like, and so that's definitely, and that was really an ego thing, right? Where I'm like, I should be able to do this without having to sell out. And it's like, you're not selling out, like you're just selling. That's all you're doing. This is a business, and there's a certain business mindset that you need to have into it. And ultimately, going back to like the child analogy, like if I'm not willing to do everything in order to foster the environment where this could come and see the light, like, do I really love it at that point? Or am I just like saying I love it, but not really willing to do everything in order to get it out there? So yeah. So the mindset had to change, and I'm like, all right, create this, get a short film going, get your social media going, start networking, quit being a little bitch, get this stuff up there. So
no, it's hard, man. I mean, I'm experiencing that right now. I can relate, man, because I'm living it. Because I've had a few. This is episode 4 that we're doing now, and so I've had a few episodes, and just like putting things out there is so hard. I mean, so. I mean, it's try to be vulnerable and to put it out there, and then to wonder what people are going to think. And I've never like my personal Facebook feed. If you went there, you would be like, wow, he's posted like 3 things since Facebook started. Like I am not exaggerating. I mean, I just don't. The only time I started posting was when I got into photography, and I had to, and that was like more of a business thing, but I'd never even felt comfortable there. And so, but I could still sort of hide behind it a little bit. Whereas this endeavor it's just very much me. I mean, it's just like, I gotta just be vulnerable and put it out there. So yeah, I can relate, man. It's a motherfucker.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think your process looks like after this, like starting the podcast, like what does timeline look like when you're talking, like putting on more material?
You mean like the episodes or like what do you mean?
Like more on the lines of like story and like short film.
Oh man, it's a good question. I've been thinking a lot about that because um I'm trying to do I'm trying to do the podcast with the video aspect to it, so it's not just audio. Because I love YouTube. I've that's like the one. I don't know if it's considered social media per se, but that's like the one thing that I use all the time because I'm obsessed with learning things, and so I love the idea of having the video aspect to my podcast. And then I'm like, it would be incredible to build out a YouTube channel and to be able to feature like fun short films and anything that I can think of to do and sort of release them alongside. I don't know if I guess it'd be like its own playlist series or something. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking. Um, that I'm hoping this will be sort of a launch pad for more stuff. If does that make any sense?
Abs- no, absolutely. And I think that's perfect, man.
And that's what's like that's part of the reason why I'm so obsessed with story and because like you look at certain like blockbuster, well, I guess they're not blockbuster because some of them don't make much money, but there's certain superhero movies that they'll pour so much money into and so many resources, and they kind of flop. And that just blows my mind because I'm like, well, you're getting all the best people in Hollywood. Money's not really an op like a hindrance, you know what I'm saying? Because they're throwing a lot of money at it, but it's not really connecting with people, broadly speaking. And yet, someone that really understands story could do, they could literally just jump into my life right now, grab an iPhone, like what you were saying, and some buddies. And if they really understood, if they understand what story is and how to elicit emotion from people, they could make something super compelling with basically no money. And that's what that's what I've been racking my brain over trying to kind of learn. And I found some really good video series and stuff. I think I emailed you one time. Um,
Yeah.
there's a the screenwriter Andy Girdot. He has like a YouTube series that he's doing, and he's been a screenwriter for like 45 years, I think, in Hollywood. And he just has like a very simple. It's just sort of like literally he just sits down in front of his computer and does episodes. And he's like, the reason I'm doing this is because I want to see better movies and I want to see better TV shows. And he's not very happy with what he sees. And the way he describes things and the way he breaks it down as far as what story is and what the job of a writer is, uh, was really like transformative for me personally in understanding the process. Cause I was very much like all my ideas, and I'm sure everyone does this when they're like newer at the process, but all my ideas were like, I guess like plot points or just like, oh, and this happens and this happens. And well, yeah, this would be cool. And it's like, well, fine, but where's the fucking story? Like what is it actually about? And I, I, I've probably spent the last 6 months really trying to understand that. If yeah, just like what is story? What actually moves people, and what would people actually remember after watching it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think everybody, like, I think that's number one, like it's a very good structure to follow. And I think ultimately, like everybody has their process in that and the message that they want to convey. And I think being able to hone in on that and then use it to your advantage is like important. I know like whenever I'm whenever I'm writing a story, there's like the two biggest things that I look at are like the human condition. And I'm like, what do we what do we try to cope with? What do we try to shy away from or blind ourselves to? And then ultimately, based on our nature, like what is a predictable future? And so I put that into one category. And then the other one is like, and what's the twist? Like it's always like the M. Night Shyamalan twist with me. Like, let's say one of my goals is to be able to like one up the Sixth Sense, right? Because like that was one of the best twists in my opinion. And I'm like, okay, I have these two things. Now I'm going to build a story around this. I have a message I want to convey. I know what the twist is. That's going to be like, oh shit moment. Therefore, like, and you're absolutely right. Constructing an actual story around that is one of the hardest parts. And I think that's one of the faults of why movies fail right now is because it's also kind of like what we've grown to digest when it comes to entertainment is something that's very quick when it comes to satisfaction. So I remember back in the day where you remember it too, like we just like we're like looking at TV and a preview comes on and the preview like it interests us because we don't necessarily know what it's about, right? We're like we see the actors, we kind of feel like we know the plot. We're like, damn, we need to go to the movies and like actually figure out some shit, right? Whereas now it's like you're pretty much getting like a small synopsis, all the good scenes in the trailers now. And so people are going in thinking like it's going to be filled with that type of quality and it ends up being shit. And I mean, it's really smart, like marketing because you're drawing people in. It's like a drug, like they're giving people the high. They go to the movies and it's like, damn, this shit has fentanyl. You just killed me. I was saying. So it's like, it's I think that's the reason why a lot of stuff is like failing right now, but it's also the reason why short film is thriving so much because they're technically we're technically we're doing the same thing as far as a trailer, but we're actually putting the story in there in a condensed version. The story is good. And then one of my buddies, he was like, man, that's what they grab. When you're talking like Blumhouse, right? Like they have these little 3 to 5 minute short horror films and they're like, that'd be a good movie. We're going to grab this. And you know what they do? Usually with that short horror film, they use that 3 to 5 minutes is usually very comparable to the trailer. It's what to draw the people in. And then it's a shitty film because all they did was grab what was going to get people's attention and just add the filler versus actually adding like a good story that sits well with people that makes them want to like go back and see it. So hopefully when it comes to writing, which is something I need to get better at, is actually creating such a solid story that it's not just a short film ultimately that's drawing people in. If it ever becomes like full length feature film, it's the story itself with all of that.
No, that makes sense. I guess maybe, God, it would be amazing to talk to somebody who, writes professionally, because I would imagine it's people's attention spans, nowadays with social media and with TikTok and stuff, that like in order to try and grab someone's attention span, it's that's probably why things are so why trailers have to be that way and like they just can't go in depth because like when I show my kids movies that I loved when I was a kid, I'm like you can feel how much more slow they move and how different it was back then versus today. And I'm not really on social media, so my if I have a lack of attention span, it's not from that. It's probably just from like working too much or something. But even I feel it. I'm like, wow, this is slow. Like just getting through like the opening and like the opening credits and stuff and sort of establishing everything. I'm like, wow. But when I was a kid, I was like, this is the best thing ever.
100%. And I think that also comes with like, and you're well versed in this, like learning cinematography, right? There's been some movies that I watched where it's like there's little happening within that like 5 to 10 minute range where it's like the opening scene, but like the cinematography is like so great that I'm like sitting on the edge of my seat, like, damn, that's a good shot. Like, damn, this music is like what's happening. and it's like title pops on and then movie starts, and they got me at that point. Um, so there's so many factors that go into it, and it's just I'm excited to learn about it, learn more about it, um, and try to do the damn thing. I mean, like I said, so dope.
What's gonna get you over the edge? Because I ask myself that question all the time.
Yeah. Um, I believe for me, it's going to be truly the social media side, like setting up a legitimate platform. Um, even when it comes to like Instagram, like building followers and throwing a short film on, promoting it as much as I can. And then once I see the reward that's reaped from that, like just going. I even had an idea at one point of like not necessarily doing short films, but like making trailers for every concept and kind of letting like the audience choose like which one do you want to see? Like even that type of reaction, like you give somebody a choice to something that they like, and like people are gonna flood in. Like, let me get your opinion about this. And so it's really like it's really gonna be the social media side. Like once I do take that leap and actually put time, effort, intentional effort into social media and put something on, just promoting from there, because everything is like the filming's not hard. People want to act. You know, a lot of times I find like acting is like back in the day when I was in high school, it's like rapping. Like everybody wants to be like the actor, actress. Everybody wants to be the rapper, but nobody wants to produce the music. And I'm like, I'll just go out and find people who want to act, find people who want to, you know, social media influencers who are trying to get their numbers up, and be like, hey, I just need you to stand here and like look pretty for this like 30-second shot. And, you know, playing on those pulls, like, even though I may not like them, playing on those pulls, that attractive social media influencer, it could be, they could possibly be the picture that's on the YouTube video that draws people in. They're like, oh, this is a very attractive person. Let me look at this video. Then they get sucked in. And I think that type of marketing is very difficult for me because something internal says like it lacks authenticity, when the reality is it's just like that's just how it is. Like how many movies have we been to because during the preview we saw like some gorgeous chick and it's like a little scandalous scene and it's like, oh, damn, like I gotta go see that, you know? I'm gonna go see it for this scene. Like, you know what scene I'm talking about. And it's just like those things draw people in. But like there's been many times where like I go and the movie is awesome. And like that's the last thing I'm thinking about at this point. It's like this movie was it was well made. There was very good acting. The soundtrack was dope. The cinematography was awesome. Like I'm not even worried about like that scene anymore. I'm not even worried about, you know, the controversial, the grotesque gore scene that everybody's been raving about. Like I'm not even worried about that because this movie was done properly. They just had to use that scene. They just had to use this person, this concept in order to draw people in. And so kind of falling into that is I know it's going to be difficult. Um, but like I said before, it's how it is. And if it's how it is, then I guess I got to do it.
Well, no, you know what's crazy is I've come to that same conclusion because basically what's happened is that it's like we're finally seeing how the sausage is made,
Mm-hmm.
basically, and it's like because I think it's because we love the art and we love the story and the experience and all the pure things about story because that's what story means to us. And I'm sure everyone that's making all those movies and stuff feels the same way. But then there's also the very just like the reality that like, hey, how are you going to get eyeballs on this? How are you going to get people's attention? And there's like a very nuts and bolts, like you say, like okay, well, just in this particular story, it just so happens that there's some dude that you know there's some military dude that just happens to be a fucking stud, and then he he just happens to halfway through the story bump into this other chick that happens to be gorgeous, and it's like, well, of course, that's on purpose. I mean, that's how they drive people to see it. But there's also the story and everything else. Yeah. So it's that for me, realizing like it's show business. There's
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
there's that business side to things. Yeah, it's hard to. Yeah, it's hard to. It was hard for me to wrap my mind around for sure.
No, for sure. Everybody knows like all the girls went to see Creed because Michael B. Jordan took his shirt off. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a good movie. It's like it is what it is. But yeah, that's like I said, that's the hump that I have to get over right now. It's just learning how to play the game and understanding like all it takes is a couple times. But then when people actually start to see that there is some quality into it, um, it's not the surface level and shallow pieces of it that pull them in, and you say you no longer have to do it. But at that point, you can rely on the quality of your work because people trust you. They've established a relationship with you. They know you're going to bring something good, and therefore it doesn't have to be, that ridiculously attractive actress or actor. It doesn't have to be that gory scene, that shot, that sex scene, and all of that. It could just be like this person has stories, and I'm about to go see this.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, man, like for sure, let me know because I would love to, whatever, like your social media, Instagram, whatever it is, man, let me know. I would love to blast all that out there, to do whatever I could to promote it. Um, yeah, because dude, that I think that's an amazing idea.
Yeah, thanks, man. Same. Once I get started up, like I said, I'm reaching out to everybody, and the whole team's coming. Like it just it has to be that way. It has to be that way. Yeah, it's no other option because I want to see it. I want to see it all come to light. It's such a beautiful thing when it comes to that, like not just that form of art, but like every just art in their own discipline, being able to take artists who are like-minded, do the same thing, and get that work out there and challenge people in it too. Not just challenging the industry itself, but ultimately, at least the way I like to write, just challenging the mindset that we have when it comes to life and just like the social norms, and the implications of the future based off of what we do in the present.
Do you find it? I man, I've not. I mean, I've neglected my writing a lot, but some of the advice that I've heard that stuck with me the most is that basically they say take a story or take an idea that you would feel uncomfortable telling your best friend and write about that. Because basically the idea is that the more vulnerable you are, the more it's actually going to connect with people. Have you tried that? Is that a difficult thing for you to do?
Man, that is exactly like honestly, that's exactly what I do. Um, and it's hard because like I want to be like, oh, I made this story about this, but at the same time, like I'm trying to hold back. But there's a lot of stories. There's a lot of stories that I write that are such gray areas that like I'll shoot it to someone and talk to somebody about it, and they kind of get this like cringe effect because they're like that's what you want to put out, and it's not because it's a good story. It's just like having to have all of that come together and have people act this out is like such a like sometimes it's like what do we do? Like it's not directly related, but like speaking about like AI, right? Um like I was kind of like brainstorming and I didn't write on it yet. I kind of like took it in a different direction. But I was like, what do you do? What do you do when people start to implement AI in order to um pretty much like continue their sexual deviancies, right? Like the stuff that we're not allowed to actually look at humans doing, we just create AI images of it. And it's like this isn't real. This is fake. Like, like how do you prosecute that? Do you come up with new laws and say if anything resembles this? Well, now it's like there's nothing definitive about it. you can just simply take this to court and say like, well, I think it does, therefore you're going to get charged under this. And so um, when you start thinking about like the specifics in that, like it can make people cringe because they're like, I never thought of this, but that's still gross. And I'm like, it is from a concept, but realistically, if you're looking at it on a surface level, like it just is what it is. That's where we're headed to as humans. We're headed to this place where like our our deepest, darkest desires can be fulfilled by ourselves at this point. We don't have to reach out to like the dark web, right? We don't have to reach out to the dude standing with like a trench coat on the side of the street or handing out the videotape. Like you can get a program, create this for yourself. And so like, what are the dangers in that? What aren't the dangers in that, right? What are the dangers that are being avoided by somebody fulfilling this through AI? And so like those kind of conversations, especially when you're like reading it from a paper, having a straight face, like, what do you think about this? Should I put it out? They're like, well, like, no, but at the same time, like, is making a short film or a movie about this bad? Or is it more bad than when it actually comes to? Or I mean, it's already happening, you know? Like this is the reality. And I think that kind of ties back into like being able to imagine what most people can't. Like people are like, oh, I saw this movie about this guy going around kidnapping like little kids and killing them and put them in the woods. Like I couldn't even imagine if that really happened. And like you and I could be like, yeah, you can. Like that happened yesterday. Like, you know? And so I think trying to predict our nature and where it goes and like coming up with like the fiction behind that is such like an interesting thing when I'm talking to people because they really do. There's a couple stories that gives them a cringe factor. And it's like, they're like, I can't put my finger on it, but something is wrong about this. And I'm like, that's what I'm going for. Like, I want you to think they're like seeing this movie or hearing this story and start not necessarily like questioning your morals, ethics, and societal norms, but just truly thinking about human behavior and how like our ability to create and innovate is facilitating like our own dark desires. And so,
No,
yeah, I love that.
I love that. Man, I completely, I completely understand what you're saying. I'm trying to think of an example, but I know exactly what you mean because it's like asking the question. But in order to, if you're going to ask the question with a book or with a movie or whatever, you have to basically tell the extreme story in order to make people think. You have to give them the example. You can't just say, well, we should all be concerned about AI or whatever, or what we're going to do with it. But in order to really like move the needle on our consciousness about that stuff, like what you said, you kind of have to write that story and depict it in a certain way so that people will understand. Like, oh fuck, I never thought about that, but that's a valid point. Is that wrong? Is it going to make things worse? Is it going to make things better? Is it going to And those are all the questions that we really should be asking.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's like, I think you stated it beautifully, especially like if you're walking out a movie and been given all the answers in the movie and you're walking out with questions about self, about the world, like for me, that's a beautiful thing. Like that movie was 2 hours long, but you're going to be thinking about this for 2 months. Like that's exactly what I want. Um, I want conversations to start because of this movies, but because of the movies, I want there to be discourse about it, even possibly debates. What is the right? What is the wrong? Is there a right or wrong at all? I feel like if art is capable of inciting that, like it has achieved its goal at that point. Like I would feel very bad looking at a piece of art, listening to music, looking at a movie and being like, oh, it's over now. Well, that's it. Like no thought used to go into it after that. Of course, there's stuff appropriate for that just to, fulfill those very basic senses. But to be able to like give somebody a product that allows them to just like sit in it for a long time and honestly figure out the world around them and themselves, like that's it. If one person tells me that from like a short film I do, I'm like, boom, achieved. Like I could die now, you know?
Now, I think
Yeah,
that
that's
that is like the highest form of art, if you think about it, because if you can make something that like elicits an emotional response in someone and makes them think and makes them consider or whatever it is you're going for, that really is the highest form of art, because it's there's a connection, and then hopefully you're making them question something that when they find that answer, they'll become a better human. Yeah, I totally I see what you mean.
yeah, yeah. I can't remember it verbatim. It was uh like good art is being able to look at something and interpret what it is, but great art is being able to look at something and start to like interpret itself in a way. Like when it becomes a reflection, when you start looking at everything around you and yourself, when those questions start coming up, like you said, like you achieved it at that point. It has nothing. This is just the means in order to incite those questions. Um, yeah, that's all it is. And if it ends up becoming that, it's like, damn, that was good. That was there's some and there's not a lot of movies like that. But the ones that do it are like they're so good, man. I love one of my favorite movies, man, Interstellar. Like that movie was just visually it was dope seeing it in IMAX, but just like the thought of like how circular that whole movie was. Like it was just like coming back in on itself. I was like, man, that's such a good movie. But what about time? What if it's not just like this linear thing, but it's like the means to communicate. And it's like all these questions start, and I'm like, that's good. That's the way I want to write. I hope one day I can get to Nolan's level, but until then, I need to start social media. So it's
Oh, man, do it, man. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, have you ever heard because you're talking about getting started on your social media, and I was asking you earlier about like mental blocks or like negative self-talk. Um, do you experience like there's a concept, I think it's like a stoicism concept. It's the obstacle is the way. And so do you have things in your life that scare you? You want to do them, but they scare you, and so you shy away from them. And then the concept is those are actually the things that you should run at the hardest. Like if it scares you, that is a very good sign that that's where you should be. Have you ever heard of that, and have you ever experienced that in your own life?
yeah, absolutely. And I have heard of it. I would say the two biggest things right now, um, would definitely have to be um, like my writing and current relationship, like 100%. Um, Relationship wise, it scares me on the daily because I'm like, man, like I have these feelings. I'm not good with expressing feelings. Like I'm good with communication, but when it comes to being vulnerable and open, like I just suck at it because I like all these walls come up that have always been there. Um, but that's also understanding like with those emotions and all that coming up, like there's something there. And it's the same thing with like writing. My fear in that isn't necessarily the fear of failure. It's how I'm perceived in the midst of doing it. And what I mean by that is, um, in order for me to truly do this stuff, I have to treat it like a job, treat it like a child. I have to nurture it. I have to put time into it. I have to make some sacrifices for it. And I think being being as direct when it comes to what I want to achieve and in the past being able to achieve it with like such ease in a way, puts me in a situation where I'm like, well, now this means like, and they're like, hey, we're gonna have like a get together. And I'm like, now I gotta stay in the room and finish this. I gotta polish up this script. Right. And they're like, they're not like, even though it shouldn't matter what they're thinking, it's like, I'm looking at it like, they're not saying, damn, like Jose is really going after this. Like, I'm proud of him for it. Like, he's really going to achieve this. They're like, this motherfucker is a child. Like, he's like, no, I don't want to do adult things. I just want to write in my room. And it's like, I have to get out of this mindset where I think that, um, I think that me doing something that truly means a lot to me, um, lessens as far as how important it is because of the way people perceive its importance. And I think once I get to that place where I can completely, hopefully, just be like, you know what? I'm truly going to treat this like a job. Like, I'm going to create the social media. I'm going to start editing. I'm going to brainstorm all those things, fitting that stuff into like my life right now when it comes to working out, being with family and friends, and just logistically planning it out as if this is my job. Like, that's the goal. That definitely is the goal. And so that biggest obstacle right now is like how I'm perceived, even though it shouldn't matter. Haven't had social media like really ever when it come to an individual, but once I started up, like, I know that's going to change people's perception of me. Very much going from this like, Jose is very disciplined, no social media. All he does is work out and eat clean. He doesn't do anything else. I'm like, oh, okay, sure. Uh, that's all Jose does. Going to like this person posting his work and going back to like that ego side, right? Where they're like, finally, he's posting on social media like everybody does. He's human. I This is what I have to do. Like, I I have to be their human for right now in order to be something more later on. And so I just have to work towards it and just ignore it like it's gonna come. People are gonna crack their jokes. They're gonna be in disbelief. But ultimately, like, as long as I get there, like, it doesn't matter what hurdle I have to go over or what mountain I have to climb. Like, it's like climbing that peak, right? Like, climbing to the peak that doesn't exist. Like, being able to look back and be like, okay, I overcame that stuff. I got through it. So it's cool.
Isn't it crazy how hard it is to get past how we perceive how we're perceived?
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I could say, that I've mastered that, and that's not a factor for me. But God, I would be lying through my teeth. Because I have the same struggles. I'm like, man, I'm going to put this stuff out there, and what are people going to think, and what does it mean, and it's like, God, it's so that is so baked into our DNA. It's just so fucking hard to get past. It drives me crazy.
Yeah. No, it is. And I tie it back to consciousness, just the level. Um, we're such, in a way, like, we're such odd creatures. Like, we think we think because we see around us that we must be the center of everything. And we think just because we are, like, we deserve to be seen by everyone. Um, like, we're so is such a paradox. Like, we want to be individuals while simultaneously being connected to everyone. Like, it's such a weird position to be in. We want success, but we don't want to go against our little made up morals and ethics in order to achieve that success. It's just so weird. We know this life could be the only life we have, and yet we live every day like we're going to continue to live for an eternity. Like, we're creatures of contradiction. That's what we are. We are walking contradictions, and hopefully, we both get to that point where it's like, okay, we can understand this from cognitive standpoint, but you know, we're gonna push against that. We know when we want people to perceive us this way, but let's keep drilling in our head like, fuck these people. Like, we're gonna do this. It doesn't matter what they think. Like, we're putting in work, we're putting it here, and they're sitting there looking at us put in work and judging. You know, if you can get to that point, like it is what it is. And
Yeah,
so, yes,
it's the man in the arena. Was it Roosevelt's famous speech? And it's hard. It's hard to be that guy, but you don't you don't really get what you want without being that guy. You got to go take some shots. You got to
no,
get in
you
there
do.
and get your ass kicked.
Yeah, yes, and yeah, get your ass kicked by social media and everybody on it. You're gonna see the haters. Like, some people are gonna say it's trash and it's just like, whatever. But you're posting, you watched it. So um yeah, it's even thinking about it now, I get like a little squirmy. This is something you have to do. But it's good, it makes me uncomfortable. Going back, like wrapping around, like if it makes me uncomfortable, even though it's not the normal discomfort that I feel, like I have to get to that point where it's comfortable and then push past that to find more discomfort in it. So
No, it means something, man, because I've experienced that even just this week. Because I was so excited about interviewing you, and because you've been on my mind, like literally when I was thinking about doing a podcast, I'm like, man, I've got to get him on there. And then, but then like this week leading up to it, I started feeling that resistance or that fear, like, well, what if I fuck it up? What if I am terrible and and I don't know how to ask a question or something. And it was like, it's like a very visceral reaction. And then I kind of caught myself and I was like, if I'm getting this freaked out about it, that's actually a good sign. And I've got to just, maybe I will fuck it up. I don't know, but that means I'm probably onto something and I got to see this through.
it's dope, man. And like, you didn't fuck it up. Like, you asked some really good fucking questions. We get deep with it. Um, and above all else, like you make it feel like a normal conversation, which is what it is. I think that's a beautiful thing when you're talking like a podcast. Like, there's a place for specificity when it comes to topics. But I think being able to be on a platform where you're like fully expressing self, you're coming on here, you can talk about work, you can talk about family, you can talk about dreams, your fears, your goals. Um, that type of like openness and vulnerability is like, I think it's completely important in this day and age, especially when you're talking about social media, where we have to put on this mask and create something for other people to see in order to be seen, in order to make money, and in order to do all these things. And to be able to take what's normally a platform for being something other than ourselves and allow people to be themselves on that platform is like, you did it. That's it. You're done, man. You you've done it. You killed it.
Man,
So
I appreciate that. That's what I want, man, because I know in my own life, like I've listened to podcasts for years and years, and the ones that I always gravitate towards and that mean the most to me and that I've learned the most are just like this. It's just like people just being open and vulnerable and just no agenda, no script, no nothing. It's just like, man, let's just talk about life, and there's just so many things that are gained from that. Yeah, dude, yeah, I appreciate that so much. Um, dude, I have to wrap it up. Because I got to go to work. But dude,
yeah, absolutely.
thank you so much. This has been so much better than even I hoped it would be. And I hope that you will come back many, many times because this has been so much fucking fun.
No, absolutely. Once again, like, I'm entirely appreciative, and it's such a privilege to be able to not just like be on your platform, but just to like talk to you again, see you again. Like, we've been keeping in contact, like pretty good over like the past few weeks. Like, it's gonna continue, and I'm definitely like, I'm up for another one. We can probably get like a little bit more specific and like talk something else, or we could just like chill like this. Hopefully next time we can actually link up in person, like get some drinks, talk over that, and like just have a good time like this, man. I'm down for it.
Oh, that'd be amazing, dude. Anything Do you mentioned your social media? Do you have those channels established? Is there some? Can you say them now or?
Like I have a page. Yeah, like I don't like it's so bad. Let me look on my phone real quick because it's honestly so bad. I don't even the philosopher. That's
I love it. Well,
yeah, yeah. I think I ended up actually shooting you like a friend request like last week or something like that. But I need to change it. I have like my picture that I got up there is like the dog that I brought back home from Syria with me. Like, that's my profile pic right now, so I probably need to change that too. But
dude. I cannot believe we didn't talk about the dog you brought back from Syria. See, that's why you got to be on again, because there is just so much. We just barely scratched the surface.
yeah, that's my only child. But she's cool. She's
That's
chill.
amazing. So wait a minute. What platform is that on?
That's Instagram.
Okay,
Yeah.
Instagram. Okay, awesome. Yeah, awesome.
So, yeah, right now I only have the Instagram. So yes, the underscore philosopher. So hopefully, like I said, I'll start revamping that platform and put some stuff on it and get it going.
Dude, I love it. I love it, man. Well, listen, thank you again. I'm going to end this, but I still got a couple of questions for you. So I'm going to cut this off. And anything else you want to say before we go?
Yeah. Like I said, man, I appreciate you bringing me on this. I really do. It means a lot.
Dude, thank you. It's amazing to talk to you, and I hope this is the first of many.
For sure. It is.